Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your man, Russ Mitchell, Homesick Buckeye. I'm back with you again, and I've got another episode of Keto Conversations where we bring you folks from all different walks of life who have seen results as a result of ketogenic living. We want to bring you their stories in an effort to uplift you, motivate you, and get you on this keto road with us, or keep you on the keto road with us. And this week's guest is Todd Bockness. Todd Bockness, the carnivore cure. Did I say that right? It's Bockness, right? Did I
Yes,
pronounce it?
sir.
Well, there you go. There you go. Todd's a great guy. I've been on streams with him, and he actually came on the Keto Cookout with us. He's got a great, amazing story, and I can't wait to just get to know him a little better. So, what's going on, Todd? You all right out there in God's
And
country?
for
Oh, for
sure.
sure.
No, it's a
No, it's a
beautiful
beautiful
day
day,
and having
having
lots of
lots
nice
of nice
weather
weather
lately. It's
lately.
kind
It's
of
kind of
interesting.
interesting. It's unseasonably
For this
warm,
time of
is it?
year. Yeah, for
Yeah, for
sure.
sure. Yeah, I know that. Well, we'll start out the way we start with everybody. Tell us where you were born and what your childhood was like.
Yeah, I'm from Miles City, Montana. Born in 1983, so I'm now 40. So, uh, yeah, it was kind of funny. I was born on Friday the 13th, and I was born 2 weeks early. And the doctor asked my mom if she wanted to wait a day because it was an unlucky day for her to have a cesarean. And she said, "No, get him out of here."
Oh, now that's a great story. That is a great story. So you're born on Friday the 13th, so I'm guessing your mom is not superstitious at all, and
Nope,
none of that kind of stuff.
nope. And 13's my favorite number for sure. That's my
Oh,
lucky number.
all
So,
right. There you go. There you go. So, and what about your childhood there? I mean, did you stay in that Montana area there? Have you been there your whole life?
yeah, my dad was a Marine,
Hmm.
and I stayed when I was 5, I guess. My dad had gotten out of the Corps, and he had complications from Agent Orange. He got hit pretty hard with the Agent Orange, and that screwed up his arteries because they got in his blood, and it deteriorated his arteries. So he's having heart problems. So he could get uh, some medical attention and some higher, intervention from a higher power. To We moved to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, so he could go to the Rhema Bible College there, and we lived there for I think 11 months. And then we
Mhm.
turned around and headed back to Montana, and we moved to Bozeman. I believe it was in '89. We moved to Bozeman
So
and been here.
you never lived anywhere where you didn't have to wear that hat. That's basically what
Exactly. Yeah.
so we can't move anywhere. I got these hats. I can't get rid of these hats. We gotta do something.
Well, you don't want me to get rid of these hats. You'll get too much
Hey,
glare
what are
on
you
the.
talking about? I love it, man. I love it, man. We got the same barber. We got the same thing going on there, brother. So yeah, I
Exactly.
love it. Yeah, two handsome guys. They're representing the big sexy, baby. That's what we doing here. All right. So
I'm just
yeah,
trying to keep the glare off the camera.
yeah. Hey, well, I'm representing for the heavy and handsome all over the world. That's what we do. Shout out to the low carb ladies and the keto cuties.
There
So,
you
but
go.
we're gonna get another one. We gotta have the keto cowboys, man. Which you
There you
got the
go.
hat and all that going on. So I'm gonna have to shout out to all my keto cowboys trying to stay on that thing. Stay on there, baby. 8 seconds, you can do it.
That's a fact.
Hey, that's it, man. We got something new tonight. The keto cowboys. That's right. That came from inspired by my man Todd. All right. So growing up as a child, did you have a weight program in your early years? A
Oh yeah.
problem, I should.
Yep. From the
Mm,
time I was born. I mean, I think
mm.
I was close to 200 pounds, I'd say, when I was 5 or 6. I was, I was 500 pounds by the time I was 10 or 11. I was 600 pounds by the time I was 14. Just had it the whole time, you know.
This is very interesting to me because um, tell me about the diet. I mean, was it standard American diet or standard
Yeah,
American
and
diet?
And
And
it, with by all means, it was bad for sure. The worst thing that put all the weight on me and caused all my metabolic problems was definitely soda. You know,
mm, mm,
it was definitely soda, and you know we were poor for sure back then. Especially, I'm one of six kids, and when Dad got out of the Marine Corps, he uh, immediately, but I think he was out 5 years and he was working like three jobs, working 20 hours a day to feed everybody, and we were living on very little, and
yeah,
so when you're living on very little, it's a lot of boxed macaroni and cheese and hot dogs and bologna sandwiches and that kind of stuff, egg sandwiches, and that's what we lived on, and really, I do OMAD now, and it's not a big deal because we weren't a family that ate breakfast. We would just
mhm.
have something at lunch and eat dinner. Dinner was the big meal, and you know, uh, yeah, we just lived off of cheap garbage and drank a lot of soda. Off-brand cheap soda. That's how we got by, and that's what caused all the problems, really.
So are you the only one in the family that had a weight problem? Did mom and dad have a weight problem, brothers and sisters? How many
So my
siblings?
dad, my dad didn't have a weight problem. I have five siblings, and I'm the youngest of six kids. But what is really interesting is that my mom has a weight problem now, but she was very thin, when she was young. Her dad was very large.
Mhm,
But what's interesting is my as you go down the tree there of siblings, my oldest brother is 21 years older than me, and he skinny
mhm,
as a rail, and he didn't have a weight problem at all. And as mom kept having kids, they were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So
mm,
it was kind of interesting. Some of it was, I think, just the time, when mom had her first kids, right? It was a lot of home cooked stuff, even though, we were broke.
mhm.
Mom tells stories about living off a ham bone soup for a week and using the same ham bone. And it was just water and salt and,
Yeah,
one ham bone and those sorts of things. But then as time progressed, TV dinners and boxed foods and processed foods became more and more of a thing. And so that's where the diet shift. My dad got a little bit of a belly on him, you know, later in life, but he did have type 2 diabetes, which
mhm,
what plagued him his whole life. So he was prone to that. And then my mom put on a bunch of weight.
yeah.
Um,
So you're
yeah,
14. So you're 14 years old, and you said you were over 500 pounds at that
that's
time.
600 pounds at that time. Yep.
600 pounds at a time at 14. What was it like as a child, like being in school, going to school and stuff like that? I mean, what were your days like, and then what was your life like at that?
Well, I was homeschooled until I was 12, 12,
Okay.
maybe 13. And then we were broke, and dad was sick, and my dad's electrician by trade, and I was big for my age, so I looked like I was 16 or 17. And so we all went to work and put away the school stuff, and we all just were working, just keep
Yeah.
money coming in, pay the bills. And so I've actually been working in the field every day, 40, 50 hours a week since I was 12.
Wow.
So but I was never bedridden or whatever like that. I was always working in the field, but it was tough. I mean, my feet
Yeah.
were killing me, my back was killing me. And that was right around then when I started going to work was when I really started, my world got bigger because I was seeing more and more people. And I was like, man, I really got to get this under control.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
that's kind of when everything started. And that was when my weight started going up and down well, till just a year ago, really.
So, all right. So you're 12 years old. You didn't have a conventional, childhood really at all. No school, no riding the bus or playing sports or things like that kind of kids do. Did you have friends? I mean, did you have any type of social life, or was just kind of
Yeah,
the
not
family?
a ton. I mean, mostly family. I did have friends around the neighborhood. Um, but life was so different. We were poor, and dad was worried that, you know, that somebody was going to get after us for working, and
Yeah.
so kind of kept that under wraps. And
Yeah.
also I was bigger, and I grew up quicker. My dad
Yeah.
My dad was very, very smart, very smart. He actually had a genius IQ, and so he taught us a lot, and we were uh, pretty well educated on the things that we needed to know, mathematically speaking, and history. Not so, there's a lot of things that we're deficient into, but dad was super smart, and he was like, he was kind of done, my older brothers went to school, and he was kind of done with the school system at that point, said, I can teach you way more useful things that you need to know out in the real world. And so that's just kind of where it went. So then later in life, my friends ended up being my coworkers, and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that were a lot older, so I did have a way
Hmm.
um,
All right.
older
So you're,
influence.
I got you. I understand. So now you're 16 years old and you're working full time now and that kind of stuff. You've kind of just jumped right into really adulthood. And when was the first time that you lost, that you decided to go on a program, change your diet and such?
So
And
when I was
off and on.
14, I joined a gym when I was 14, and I
Okay.
started working out. And I go there after work 3 or 4 days a week. And then I met with I wasn't paying for trainers, couldn't afford it. I could barely afford the gym, but um, Kurt and Bob were a couple of trainers there, and they took a liking to me, and they were trying to help me. They could see I was struggling and see what I was trying to do there. So they put me on the standard American diet because they were trainers and that's what they knew to do. And they
Sure.
meant well, you know.
Yeah.
You know, man, then I just got on a roller coaster and I get mad and figure I got to do something. So I remember the first getting a little more money, working more. I was driving by that point, so I was 16 or 17, and I just got mad at the whole deal. And I said, you know what, I'm just gonna work like a dog and not eat. So I was basically I was living off of a energy drink in the morning and a package of honey roasted peanuts. I remember that was all I'd eat every day, and I did that for about 14, 15 months, and I lost. I think I got down to like 380 pounds, 370 pounds. And
Mm.
then I started having actual, from I think it was from the energy drinks, but I started having heart palpitations, and I got kind of a
Mm.
scare because I mean, one day just something weird happened with my heart. I wasn't sure what was going on, and they were helping me, and I did that for a few years, and I got down to doing that. I got down to I believe 520, 520, right in there is what I got down to,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
wasn't feeling very good. I was getting dizzy and tunnel vision and stuff when I was working. Weird things were happening. I was really, and obviously I was just low on electrolytes. Now I know what was going on. Back then I had
Yeah.
no idea, but I was
Mm.
low on nutrients and just things weren't. You can only do that for so long.
Yeah,
And
so just you had no nutrition, no concept really of nutrition and things like that.
not at
Never
that time.
just had no understanding of any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, you're
Yep,
just
not at that
kinda
time
winging
until I didn't start understanding nutrition and stuff until I was 18.
it. Mhm.
I was working on a job when I was 18. The insulators come in spraying Corbon. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's spraying foam insulation. And these
Mhm.
dudes are wearing like full hazmat bodysuits and respirators with pumping in, not even cleaning the air. They're pumping in fresh air from outside. They won't even try to clean it because that stuff's pretty terrible. And I'm young and stupid and cocky. And I was like, well, I'm not going to fail. I'm going to get these conduits through. So I breathe that stupid fumes and foam and fog of that crap all day, and I got sick, and I finally got those conduits through the wall. It was miserable. I still remember it to this day,
Mm.
but I got my conduits around, got everything ready. I was driving home, was not feeling good, and that did something to my lungs that just lasted forever. I mean, up till
Yeah.
just recently, because my oxygen dropped to
Mhm.
below 90%, and I started having serious lung problems. And from that point
Mm.
on, um, I would have bronchitis or pneumonia, and it put me in the ICU several times after that
Mm.
because my lungs were just something happened to them. Doctors called it reactive airway disease. They said people that work around chemicals end up getting that, and it's where you pick up where after that your lungs get sensitive and they can be triggered by uh, like stress or physically induced asthma, basically.
Yeah.
And so I started seeing a lot of doctors because of the lungs. And when I was seeing the doctors, they got me into nutritionists and they started taking a look
Mhm.
at my weight and my heart and everything else. And
Yeah.
oddly enough, I was very, very healthy most of my life, other than the lungs, because I
Yeah.
was working a lot. And
Yeah.
so I never had a bad heart. I never had bad blood work. I didn't have high cholesterol. I didn't have diabetes. I didn't have pre-diabetes. I didn't have any of this stuff, or so they said. I just, but and they even tested my thyroid, said, oh, you have kind of slow thyroid and all this nonsense. And that just went into this lifelong round and rounds with dietitians, and they would put me on different diet programs, counting calories, macros, weighing your food,
Yeah.
prepping your food,
Yeah.
all
So,
this stuff.
so you said on the keto cookout with us that you lost over 200 pounds a couple of times.
Yeah, for over 200 pounds 4 times, really. Twice of those were over 300 pounds. So then a
Wow.
little bit later on down the road, so that was after 18 again, I was like, all right, I got to do something. And so I basically did another starvation diet and lost a couple 100 pounds. Same thing happened. It was lasted about somewhere between 12 and 14 months. I got like 180 pounds, 200 pounds off. Still, I would feel better because it's good to not have the weight, but then I'd feel worse in other ways because I had less and less energy because I wasn't eating and I was running
Yeah.
out of reserves to run on, and I would start getting real weak. I'd lose muscle. One thing I always had
Yeah.
for me with all that weight is I was always like strong, like nothing was
Yeah.
heavy for me. But when I wouldn't eat for a year, then everything was heavy and everything was hard. And that was when the depression really started kicking into.
Well, that's I find that so amazing that that you could do that. And I certainly can understand the depression part of it because I mean that's just that's my biggest fear in all of this. From the time I started, this ketogenic life, it just petrifies me the thought of losing a bunch of weight and gaining it back.
Mm,
And yet you've done it several times. Can you talk a little bit about um, the psychology of it? I guess the highs and lows. I'm guessing, and you can tell me you lose a couple 100 pounds. You're excited about it. You're like, oh man, I'm doing good. I'm losing this weight, and then you put it back on, and you're right back where you started. And then you do
yeah.
it again and again. I mean, can you talk a little bit about just the psychology, the highs and lows? What's going through your mind during these times? Can you just try to help us understand a little bit?
Honestly, there wasn't highs. I never had highs because what it was like is the lows were so bad that
Mm,
it would push me to do something drastic because I was like, I can't keep doing this.
yeah,
Everything's hard. The depression and anxiety is bad. Everybody's looking at me. You get, you know,
yeah,
when you're around your family and friends, they all care for you, right? And you carry this on the outside so everybody can see it. So every time you're around your family and friends, anybody that cares about you, I didn't care about the haters. Like whatever, the
yeah,
haters can do.
yeah,
My dad taught us to not give a damn about what other people think. But it was the people that I respected. You could see it, and so every time they're around you, right, they're taking that on. They're looking at you. They know that you're running, that you're dying basically in front of them. You're taking years off your life. This is a real problem, and you get sick of almost every like a contagion where people take your problem away with them because it's right in front of them, and then they start worrying about you and they start trying to intercede and help you in some way. And it's always this thing, and you just get tired of that interaction because it's like, man, every time around anybody, I'm bringing them down. They're taking on my own burden, and it gets really old.
Well, I mean, but
So,
yeah, but they can see you're trying. I mean, you had so much success. I mean, you lose 200, 300 pounds, and then you gain it back. I mean, they couldn't see that you were,
oh, they
trying.
knew that I was. It wasn't that they didn't think that I was trying. It's that they cared. So they're like, "You're struggling. We got to help you." And so they would just come up with ideas, and you'd have to sit there and go, no, I tried that. No, I tried that. And then it
Yeah.
just starts sounding like you're coming up with all these excuses and you're really not. So, I was just talking to Limitless Lindy the other day, and I was actually talking to Carnivore Scott about it too. And I was like, that's why we become funny, right? Like in my circle, I'm the funniest guy
Yeah.
ever. I make everybody laugh and everybody says that. And it's really just because you want to shift the attention off of this, and so that the awkward conversation, so that they're not walking away worrying about you, feeling bad. So
Yeah.
you're
Oh yeah.
over, you know, you overdo everything, and oh no, there's no problem with me. I feel great. I'm
Yeah.
healthy as a horse.
Yeah.
There's no problems here. And then
Oh man, I know exactly what you mean. I talked about that, and I did a series called My Overweight Life, and I talked about that. Although it's who I am. See, I wasn't always, this heavy.
mm,
Um, I mean, I was always a big guy, but I wasn't, 500 plus pounds. I mean, I was 250, 300, or so. And, but I was athletic, and, I never had a problem in my social life, stuff like that. I was big guy. I was big dog, big man.
right, totally,
When you're in middle school and high school, you get a little bit of teasing from your friends, fatso and this and that. But when you get out around adults, and you get to working and stuff, it's different. They don't needle you the same way. It's, hey, come on, big guy. Hey, I talked about being on the company softball team and having big dog on the back of my jersey, stuff
totally,
like that. Um, and I know what you mean too about the family, because I'm the guy that, people come to with their problems. I don't come to other people with my problems. I'm
right,
everybody's answer guy. And yeah, there was many times when people would call, "How you doing?" "Oh, I'm good," and I wasn't good.
right.
Uh,
Exactly.
and
You never show it, and you never.
yeah,
That's something where almost you feel like if people think there's something wrong, they're going to be infected with the depression and that dark part of you, and so you shelter everybody else from that.
sure. And it was also how I was raised. Don't complain. You got so much to be
Mhm.
thankful for and grateful for. I live in a house that I custom designed and built for myself.
Yep.
Because I outgrew my old house.
Right.
I mean, the walls are basically coming in me. I couldn't fit in the bathrooms and things like that. And it's like I am in this big, beautiful new house, and what am I? Am I going to complain?
Right.
Be thankful and grateful that you have the means to build a house for yourself that you can fit in.
Totally.
So it's a mixture of things. But for me, um, it was my sister who sat in front of me and cried for me.
Hmm.
That really changed my life. Um, my whole life, people had always told me about what my weight was doing to me. Oh, you're gonna have a heart attack. Oh, you're gonna have a stroke. Or oh, don't you want to be healthy? Oh, and I didn't lose a bunch of weight and gain it back and all that. So they just saw me steadily gaining weight. They didn't know that I was trying
Right.
different things and trying to lose weight. They didn't know, and I didn't really let them in that way. But it wasn't until my sister sat in front of me and cried and told me how my weight was affecting her.
Hmm.
50 years of living, nobody had ever shared with me how my being heavy was hurting them. And that was the driver for me ultimately to try ketogenic living, because I was built to take the pain and the struggle. I was built for that. I
Totally.
didn't care. I didn't care about me nearly as much as I cared about the people I love. So I could handle it. But the thought of her being hurt and being in pain over me, that I couldn't live with. And so I literally sat in bed, up in bed on New Year's Eve, 2021, and said, I'm going to try this Atkins, because that's what I knew it as at the time. I didn't understand what I understand now, but I'm like, I'm going to try this, and I don't care. If it kills me, it kills me, because that's what I thought. I thought I was trading short term weight loss for my overall, health. I thought it was just a deal with the devil. Yeah, I can lose this weight, but I'm going to die of a stroke. But I thought I'm going to die anyway. So who
Right.
cares?
Oh,
At
I
least
know
I'm
that. I,
at least I'm gonna die trying to fix it, as opposed to just laying here. I'm like, if they're gonna find me here in this house one day, if I don't just try it. And so, as I started doing my research, obviously I found out a lot of things that I know now
yeah.
about the myths and all that kind of stuff. But I totally understand where you're coming from with the family and all that kind of stuff. But The up and down, the psychology of losing all the weight, gaining it back, and losing it, gaining it back. Man,
Yeah.
that
So,
petrifies me.
yeah. So there wasn't, like I said, there wasn't any highs. And the reason why there wasn't
Yeah,
highs is because I was doing it out of I was pure just pissed, to be honest with you. I
yeah,
was like, just like you said, the first time I ever said, if I die, I die, but it's better than what I'm doing. The first time I ever said that, I was 12 years old. When I first started going to work, it was so painful to go to work, and my heart was beat. I, at the time, I was so heavy and so sick that I remember distinctly. I was digging a trench for an underground electrical service behind this hotel we were wiring in Gardner, Montana, and I got a bloody nose because the when my heart was pumping, my blood pressure was so high, I got a bloody nose.
mhm,
And I felt like I was going to die. My heart was beating out of my chest, and I said, I don't even care. That was the first time, because at that time I was so heavy, I was having a hard time. I'd wake up gasping for air at night because I couldn't
yeah,
breathe. You know, and so I was
yeah.
like,
That wasn't my story, but go ahead, keep going.
oh, I was just thinking, I'd rather die than keep living like this. So I'm either going to work and the weight's going to come off, or I'm not. Because at the time I was seeing all these people out there working and I wasn't working. And I thought, well, maybe the work and being busy and that extra activity is going to get this weight off me. So at the time I thought,
Yeah,
you just got to do, no matter how much it sucks, no matter how scary it is, no matter how much painful it is, just do it. And you're either going to get over it or you're going to die. And either one's better than this. So just do it.
yeah. That's crazy to think about a 12-year-old kid having those kind of conversations with himself about, you know, this
I
is
was so heavy, it
better
was
than
miserable,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, 548 is the highest that I know about. I know I was higher than that because I was in ketosis when I weighed 548. So I knew I weighed something higher than that, but I didn't weigh myself for 30 years.
Right.
So, I don't know what my highest weight was, but I just
Yeah.
can't imagine at 12 years old thinking that. I got to that point after 45 years of going through it, you know? So,
Hmm.
I didn't have that experience so much as a kid. But, you know, um, the I'm lucky, I guess, genetics maybe, and again, the way I was brought up, I have what I call a depression-resistant mind. It's just I get down, but it's really impossible, or at least it has been in my life, to stay down.
Yeah.
Just I get to a point where I'm like, I can hear the voices in my head of my Uncle Joe and my Aunt Wanda and my dad and the people that raised me. Like, what are you crying about? You got so much to be grateful for. You got so
Totally.
much to be thankful for. Get up, stop that crying.
Right.
They're not gonna them tears ain't gonna fix nothing. So and then I'm naturally silly. That's who I am at my core. So when you put those two things together, like I said, I get low, but I don't generally stay down for very long. I'm always looking for a way, looking for an answer. And that's kind of more my story. But I've approached this from a slow and steady and doing it my way kind of approach because for me, just being able to sustain it for a lifetime is fine. And I don't really care how much weight I lose. When you get, at least for me, I can't speak for you, but when you get to a certain size, maybe that number is 500 pounds, you just get to a place where you're excited not to gain weight anymore. I mean, really. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm still in that place. I mean, I've lost over 40 pounds. I've never lost 40 pounds before in my life. I've
That's
found
awesome.
40 pounds a lot of times. I've never lost 40, never lost 40 pounds. I've talked about it a couple of times. For the first time in my life, I started a bin of clothes that are too big for me. I've never had this. So for me, I'm still in the euphoria of, I haven't gained any weight. It's been almost a year.
Yeah.
You know what I
Totally.
mean? And so when I look at the scale, I'm thinking that. I'm not thinking about how much I'm losing. I'm just still amazed that I'm not gaining. And I don't know when that wears off. I mean, at
Right.
some point, I'm sure it will. At some point, I'll look at the scale and I'll expect to lose weight or expect to be lighter. But I'm not really there, even though I know I'm doing the right things and all that. In my mind, I'm still like, when I get to my monthly weigh-in, because I only weigh myself once a month, I'm looking down at that thing like, yeah, how's this gonna go? you know.
Totally.
But again, to me, man, I don't care if I never lose another pound. I really mean that. Um, what I'm doing, how I feel, the way I'm going, I feel great. It's all been worth it. I know and believe that I will continue to lose weight. But the biggest thing for me is to not put that 40 pounds back on, you know.
Right.
And when I get to 50 or 60 or 80 or 100, I mean, it's the same thing. I'm just so petrified of that. So the thought of that you could survive that multiple times, losing 200 or 300 pounds. I mean, that is amazing to me. That just psychologically that you could
Well,
make it
you know
through.
that, and that's why I said it there wasn't any highs, because when I was doing
Yeah,
it, I was doing it just out of, I was just mad, and something had, it was just that idea where I'm going to do this. It's either going to work or it's going to kill me,
yeah,
and I go for it. And then, but the whole time there was a monkey on my back, and that monkey was, this is not sustainable. Every
yeah,
time
yeah, yeah,
it was like, this is not sustainable. You would wake up every day with this huge weight on you, and you go, is this the day that it's going to go to hell? Is
yeah.
it all going to fall apart? And this the day that I'm going to fail again? And so that would just sit there, and something would be a catalyst. And I think half the time the failing was just not wanting to worry about it anymore, not wanting to wonder what day the failure is going to come. But
Well, you're torturing yourself. I mean, you're
yeah,
torturing yourself. You can't torture yourself in perpetuity. I mean, it's just I tell people that even now with ketogenic living, if you gotta kill yourself to do this, something's wrong. It should be easy. Make it easy on yourself. Play the game on easy mode. You don't have to
right,
play the game on hard mode. Win every time you play.
right,
Find a comfortable place and then build and grow from there. I mean, I hear people, I push myself and challenge myself. Man, I didn't join the Navy SEALs. Okay,
right,
I'm just trying to lose a few pounds here and get healthy. I don't have
right,
to challenge myself and push myself in a hell week. And no, I can eat, comfortably. I can, still do some things I like to do, eat things I like to enjoy, and I don't care. I'm happy to lose this weight the same way I gained it. I'm
right,
happy to do that. And if I lose 50 pounds a year for the next 5, I'll be the happiest guy on the planet Earth. Like I said,
right.
I'm still in euphoria about not gaining any weight. So,
Right. And
um,
I got to say, I've joined your your point of view on that this time, but that's a new thing for me, because I've always been in one ditch or the other. I've been that guy where I'm 150% in, or I'm just, completely out of it. I've never been that guy, but I've learned, especially in this one, just something. Carnivore is just Keto carnivore is just different, and it's you're no longer, see, before I was attacking the weight,
mhm.
and I'm not anymore. That
Yeah,
now
that's
I'm
right.
attacking the habits, and I'm just trying to feel good, and I'm trying to heal my body, and the weight is just a really good bonus.
Absolutely. Amen. I
Yeah,
love
and so,
that. That's how I feel too.
yeah, and it healed that need to fix it right now and do something
Yeah.
massive, because I got a massive problem, so I got to do something extreme and massive to counter it. That was one of the that was just me and a flaw in my makeup or whatever, that I just had to get over and stop.
I don't think it's a flaw in your makeup. I think it's perfectly normal. I think it's perfectly normal. I think it takes a little bit more thinking, a little more thought, a little more because listen, when I first heard Dr. Bickman talk about ketosis, and I understood it. I knew that was my ticket out. I
Yeah.
knew that was my I'm like, I'm free. If I can just get to ketosis, man, I'm free.
Right.
And so my first thought was, well, if I starve myself, I can get into ketosis in a couple of days. But I had to stop and I had to take a step. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not going to work. Okay. I can't do it that way. I don't want ketosis to be my starting line. I want ketosis to be my finish line.
Right.
And if I go starve myself and I get into ketosis, I'm going to be fighting for the rest of my life to stay in it. And I
Totally.
don't want that. I want to fight now and I want to have a series of battles And when I win all those battles, I'm in ketosis and all the heavy lifting is behind me.
Right.
Now I can coast,
Yep.
because I fought all the tough battles. I've won all those tough fights. And now I'm good. And it took me a lot longer than I thought, but I wanted it to last. I wanted it to stay. I want to do this until they put me in the ground.
Right.
And so the only way I could do that, knowing me and understanding myself, was to do it the way I did it. And it's worked out exactly like I planned it, even though it took longer than I planned. But it's worked out exactly how I planned. And now it's easy. But
Right.
it wasn't. It wasn't. There was a time when it wasn't so easy.
For sure.
But now it is. And I wake up every day and I have my routines and my normals and my habits and I just know so much now. I can never, ever, ever go back to that old life. Never.
Exactly.
Even when I'm doing things I shouldn't do, it's not like it used to be.
Right.
I mean, it's just my life is so different now. And it's about total health and wellness, with, of course, weight loss being part of that total health and wellness. And I'm going to lose the weight I lose, how I lose it, when I lose it. The most important thing to me is to get up every day and make sure that 9 days out of 10, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. And that other 1 out of 10 days, I don't even care.
Right.
No, I just don't care. You cannot derail 9 days of progress with 1 day of failure. It just can't do it. It's physically impossible. So
Yeah.
let's fast forward to where you first heard of ketogenic living of any type. When was that and how old were you?
So
Okay.
in 2018, which I would have been 35,
Okay.
uh, I just a lot of things had happened, and I was in the worst spot in my life at that point. So I was actually planning on taking my own life at that time, and then I just some bad things happened, and I came to a spot where I was just thinking about it, and I was like, man, I can't do this to my brother, my sister, my mom. This would be too much, and my dog, believe it or not. And I was ready to start some kind of diet, and I wanted it to be more sustainable. And my brother at the time was doing a weightlifter's diet. And he goes, why don't you try this? You can do high protein, low fat, moderate carbohydrates. So I did that diet for like 13, 14 months. And it was miserable. It was the most depressed I'd ever been, but it could have been everything. I don't know. It was just terrible. I had no energy. And after 13 months, 14 months, I'd lost 37 pounds and felt miserable. And I knew I was about to fall off the wagon again. And I just made myself promise that this time I was not quitting no matter what. And so I was just trying to keep myself from falling off the wagon. And I couldn't eat any more dry chicken breasts, man.
Mhm.
That was what I was eating all the time, was these dry chicken breasts, and it was just miserable. So I looked up, how can I cook these chicken breasts better so they're not so dry and miserable, because you can't use rubs and all this stuff. So I found sous vide cooking. And when I was trying to learn how to sous vide, I was watching all these videos of these guys doing these ribeyes. So I told myself, all right, I'm not going to fall off the wagon, but I am going to have a cheat day. And when that sous vide machine gets here, before I cook one more piece of dry chicken, I'm going to cook one ribeye just like those videos I was watching. And my sous vide machine got here, and I went and it was funny. I said I was going to have one cheat day, but I bought 4 ribeyes when I was at the store. And so
So,
I,
so, so a ribeye on the the weightlifter's diet that you were doing, ribeye was not part of that because it
no, it
was too
was
fatty.
too fatty, too much
Okay,
salt,
gotcha.
too much fat. Like, I wasn't eating salt, I wasn't eating fat, I was eating lean protein, egg whites, and brown rice and turkey sausage was like my whole existence there for 14
Now,
months.
I find that interesting only because I know and I've seen studies and I've heard Dr. Bickman and others talk about studies with bodybuilders and weightlifters who get way better results with protein and fat than with protein alone. And there's actually been several studies. So I find that interesting. He was on a weightlifter's diet.
He was
That-
following So he was following Frank Zane. I don't know if you know who Frank Zane is, but he became Mr. Olympian against Arnold Schwarzenegger even back like in the 70s. So this was old school, high carbohydrates, low fat, high protein, old school. So that's what my brother was following. And Frank Zane, like one of his famous one of his famous quotes is, "You just have to get used to being hungry," is what he says. To stay lean.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, get real.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly. So that's what
so
I was going after. I found these ribeyes.
gotcha.
I
So you
ate,
thought you were cheating. You thought you were cheating on your diet with these ribeyes, and then you started eating them.
yeah, and I ate one ribeye one day, and I kid you not, I had felt better that day and happier, and it was like fog lifted from my mind. Some of the depression, anxiety lift, and I just was happy for like the first time in a long time. And it wasn't like overjoyed, but it was just some relief. I felt it immediately within an hour of eating those ribeyes. And it felt so good that I was started reasoning with myself, and I said, you know what? This might be too high a fat, but at least if I only eat once a day, because before I was eating twice a day, I was having egg whites and turkey sausage in the morning, and I was having chicken breast and brown rice and protein powder at night.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, all right, maybe I'm getting too much fat, but if I cut out the carbohydrates, I can balance out the calories at least. So I'm getting the protein that I need. I'm not getting the carbohydrates. I'm having too much fat, but at least the calories and the protein are in line. And I'll just eat once a day because that I had to do that to keep the calories at bay. So I was just kind of playing with it, and I'm like, I'm just going to do this. And I did that for 4 days, and I ate those ribeyes for 4 days. At the end of 4 days, I had fallen into ketosis because I was really close on that protein diet. I was just eating just too many carbohydrates in the rice.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually very primed to go into ketosis at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into ketosis really fast, and I started getting rid of fluid, and I started peeing a bunch. And so you got to realize that in that 14 months, I'd only lost 37 pounds. Now, in this last 4 days, I felt better, happier, more energy, stronger. And I lost 13 pounds in 4 days of fluid, obviously. But
Wow.
I was like, so I'd never heard, I'd heard of Atkins, but that was a taboo diet. You didn't do it unless you're an idiot and you're going to kill yourself and all that.
So when did you hear about Atkins?
My dad was always reading books. My dad was always trying to help us, and he had diabetes. And so he was reading those books like Atkins stuff and about eating right for your blood type and all those books. My dad was always trying something,
No,
and
so
he was,
early 2000s.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember when Atkins
Mhm. I was gonna
first
say,
came
so
out.
really, you heard about ketogenic living many years before. You just
For
didn't
sure.
take it seriously.
Yeah, I didn't take it seriously because that, according to my doctors and according to my
Right.
dietitians, that was craziness.
Me too.
And
Me too. I found out about it in like around 2001 or 2002, and I thought the exact same thing, and I poo pooed it and didn't
yeah,
take it seriously. I
but
understand.
that was just Atkins. So I'd never heard the term keto. I'd never heard the term
Right, right,
keto
right.
until after those 4 days of eating ribeyes. I finally Googled it and I said, I put in Google, I'm eating ribeye. Why does eating ribeyes and butter make me feel so good? And that's what I put in there.
Right.
And this guy named Dr. Darren Schmidt at Ann Arbor, Michigan, who's got a channel on YouTube, popped up and he started talking about candidus and keto. And so I started listening to that, and it started making so much sense to me. And it was something that it was a view that I'd never seen before. And it was something I'd never tried before. But even more so, it was something that I was currently experiencing that was having real effects on me that I could take. The doctors were telling me all this stuff that I'm supposed to do this and X, Y, and Z is going to happen, but it never happened and it never felt that way. And there was never any positive feedback from it. I was never getting the results and it was never good. It was always a negative thing because I was always hungry, lower on energy, more depressed, more full of anxiety, and it was just misery. Where they're saying that this is a healthy diet, and I just experienced it, and it seemed so sustainable, and I was so happy. I'm like, I was all in on keto at that point. I'm like, that's it. I'm doing this. Like, this is my
Well,
new thing.
I have to say that I wouldn't trust anybody from Ann Arbor, Michigan, ever. But I'm glad it worked out for you. But anyway, I digress. So that is fantastic. So you made a Google search after eating these fatty meats for a few days. You found this doctor. You started listening to him, and you realized that you were onto something.
I did. Yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
awesome.
unfortunately, I should have just kept eating ribeyes and I would have been fine.
Yeah.
But I was all in on keto now, and I was the keto mascot at that point. I was
Mhm,
all about it. And I read every article and every recipe, and I signed up to every Facebook group and all
mhm.
the, YouTube channels. And that led me astray because then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I can make, keto pizzas, keto chaffles, keto
Yeah,
muffins.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can go
yeah,
get, the Atkins bars, the protein bars, the fat
yeah.
bomb, you know.
To me, in my way of thinking, if I trade, pizza for keto pizza, or ice cream for keto ice cream, in my mind anyway, and I know I'm a weirdo, I haven't changed my life.
Right.
I haven't made that. You're just. I don't know how to describe it. Just my mental process. So when I went into this, I have never purchased a keto anything. Not a treat, not a hot dog, not a bun, not a. I've never bought a piece of keto candy. I've never. If I want a hot dog, I'm gonna eat a hot dog, a real one. If I want cookies, I'm gonna eat it. But I've gotten to myself to a place where I don't really want that stuff anymore. Not with any
Oh,
real. It's not my normal. Here and there, of course, I do some things. Everybody, it's well documented.
right.
But on a daily basis, my 90% of the time, I just don't. I've got a new life now. I just everything is different. So,
I
but I
feel
got
you there
so
now.
yeah, so you went on the keto, got on the keto thing and started just knocking down all every keto, anything that had keto on it, you were all about it. No
Right,
matter
because in my mind at the time, right, I'd been this guy that was doing these extreme things and they
yeah,
weren't sustainable. So in my mind, I thought, okay, well, here's a way that I could sustain it because if I can eat the normal things but make them keto, then
yeah,
somehow that's going to be sustainable. I went down this rabbit hole. I went on and off keto twice
yeah,
and went back on kind of a third time, and because I kept, that kept derailing me, right? Like I'd go, okay, I'm going to do keto, then I was real strict, and then that would go astray because you'd start doubling down on these bad things. They were just easier to eat. You liked them better, whatever, and then you're out of ketosis, and then all of a
yeah,
sudden I'm ordering DoorDash and eating crap again.
right, right,
So, so anyhow, I did that twice, and then I read a book from Dr. Jason Fung talking about it's called the Diabetes Code, talking about insulin resistance and your fasting insulin set point. So I decided, all right, I'm going on keto, but this time I backed into my extreme mode and I decided I was going to do a 40-day water fast to
oh,
try to lower my fasted insulin levels. So
mhm,
I decided to do a 40-day water fast. I wish I would have read more about electrolytes and everything, but I didn't. So I made it to day 21 and I got real sick because my potassium got dangerously low
yeah,
and I caught COVID.
mm,
And when I caught COVID, it got real bad real quick and it went straight to my lungs. I got a real bad pneumonia and it scarred up my lungs real bad and it damaged my heart a little bit. And I ended up having congestive heart failure. And at this time, I think I was right around 600 pounds. And so when I was fighting my way through COVID, I started gaining fluid. I got a bunch of lymphedema, congestive heart failure, and I gained 84 pounds of fluid in 3 weeks. I blew up like a water balloon.
mm,
And that's kind of when I was stuck at home. I was stuck in that chair and I was fighting that. And so it took me over a year to fight through that to get my head back in the game because I thought that was it. I was like, all right, well, I'm just checking out of here because I'm not making it past this one. And then I had to get my mind right and I got back to reading my Bible and praying about it and just got my head right. And then I decided I was going to do keto again, but this time I'd read enough and I'm like, I'm doing very strict keto. It's all going to be whole food keto, no processed anything.
yeah,
And I'm going to get rid of all the diet sodas and all that. And so I decided I'm just going to do taco salads was going to be my
Yeah,
thing. I was just going to
I
have,
love it.
yep. And so I started on taco salads, and that was on September 28th of 2022. So yesterday was actually my 1 year anniversary on that.
Mm.
So then I started eating steaks and some salmon, but mostly beef steaks on January 1st, 2023. And that's where I went carnivore, and that's when everything changed. Now, the one caveat to that was I was still fighting soda cravings. I was having soda cravings so bad. That was my main go-to my whole life. And now I'm not even having diet soda, so it was brutal. So I like a guy on YouTube here. His name's Dr. Berg. He's a proponent of keto, and he had an idea about making a sparkling lemonade out of volcanic lemon juice, sparkling water, and electrolyte powder.
Nice.
So I did that, and that was the cure to get me between that and going full carnivore. Whatever those two things did, uh, within 5 to 6 weeks of doing those two things together, everything changed. Uh, at the time, my lungs were blown up. I was putting on all this fluid. I was on oxygen 24/7. I was stuck in that chair. I was sleeping in that chair. I was eating in that chair. It was miserable to get to the bathroom. I could only stand up for 90 seconds at a time.
Yeah. So
I
how
had
much
to
did you
build.
weigh? How much? Just to interject. How much did you weigh January when you made the switch over into, basically
I
zero carb living?
At that point I was too big to be able to weigh, but I believe from how I calculated it was I had to be on carnivore for 4 months to lose enough weight to be able to get on the scale again. And when I did that, my calves went down substantially. I lost enough weight that I could stand and walk and do a lot of things, and I was off the oxygen by that point. So I'd lost a significant amount of weight. And at the time when I finally was able to get on the scale and weigh, I was 647 pounds. But I'd lost a lot of weight over those 4 months. So what I did was I kept track of how much weight I'd lost over the next 5 months, and then I took that average per month and I backtracked, and that's where I came up with 715.
Mm.
But in all reality, I think it was probably quite a bit higher because you know how much fluid you lose when you first get into ketosis. So I think it was probably 750 or more.
Mm.
But it was brutal, and I was,
Yeah.
it was so bad. I every night I'd wake up gasping for air constantly, and that's why I was sleeping in a chair because I knew I couldn't lay in a bed
Yeah.
because that would crush me. So I
Yeah.
started sleeping sitting up, but even then I would wake up gasping for air every night, have these terrible headaches, and but that's basically what got me on
Yeah.
carnivore, and things turned around so quick. Right now, I'm happy to say, like I told you, since I was 18 and I got pneumonia that one time from breathing that core bond, my lungs then from that day never could get my oxygen saturation over 88. And now here I am 40, and my oxygen saturation with no oxygen is at 96% just sitting here talking.
I
Like,
love that. I
yeah,
love
that is so huge. And I can talk about
it.
so many things, about
And
how the
so how much?
depression went away.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how much do you weigh now?
Right now I'm at 476 pounds. Yeah.
Man, yeah, that is so you've lost like I
I
said,
think
close to 300
240.
pounds, something
Yeah,
around
two
200
forties. I mean, from the 715 I say that it was at because I feel comfortable there. I'm
pounds.
about 240, but I think it could have been two
Yeah.
80 something.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this time you're not going back.
No,
Yeah.
and
Just
that's
go
what I
back.
keep saying. This is the biggest blessing of it. First of all, the depression, anxiety is completely gone, and my mind is so clear. But unlike all those other times where I'd wake up every day and that monkey was on my back and I was waiting for the hammer to drop and for everything to come off the rails, now I don't think about it. I wake up and I'm excited because my food is going to actually help me today. And I'm going
Yeah.
to get stronger today. And I can't wait to see how much more energy, I mean, this wall right here,
Yeah.
this might seem little and insignificant, but
No?
I just built this wall for my recording studio with the TCC on there,
Yeah.
right? And the reason why that's a big deal is because I had to work on a ladder to do that. Okay, 1 year ago I couldn't stand up for 90 seconds And then this month I'm sitting there putting tiles up and putting light fixtures up and building this little studio here.
brother, brother, I know. 6 months ago, I couldn't stand up long enough to shave.
Right.
You know, I couldn't make it to the end of my driveway. I mean, I should take my cell phone with me to take my trash out because I wasn't sure I could make it back in the house.
Right. I
You know,
totally get
without
that,
a
man.
pretty long driveway. So yeah, yeah. Listen, I tell y'all, I say it all the time. I still look like the before and after picture, but what I've gotten back of my life, over the last 6 months, man, has been worth every bit of it. And have it, I mean, I know you've done a lot with doctors and stuff. Blood work. Have you done any blood work over the last 6 months or so, or a year, to know where
Not,
you're at?
no,
Where,
I'm getting,
where we at?
I'm about ready to do that. I wanted to wait till my 1 year carnivore anniversary, which will be January. So I'm planning on doing a big blood panel because that's when I really feel like everything was changing. The ketovore was a process to get to carnivore, but it wasn't very successful. It's really the carnivore. So I wanted to get to my 1 year anniversary and go in because I had a laundry list of things at my last blood work. I had low testosterone. I still
Right.
had reactive airway disease. I had whatever these high protein markers in my liver, I think it was, and all these things, right? And so I just know that, like, I can tell from the lymphedema that's gone away.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't sit. I would go back and forth from sitting, and then all the fluid would puddle up in my legs like massive, and it
Yeah.
was agony. And then I had to tie these ropes that I bought on Amazon. They're climbers ropes, but I'd tie them around my ankles so that I could lift my legs up and put them on a footstool
Yeah.
because my legs were so heavy. Every time I'd get a reclining chair, the recliner part would break. You know, the leg thing. They'd all just bend and crash. So I had these footstools, and my sister had to go get them that were heavy duty that I could lift my legs up and put it on to get that fluid off, and it was miserable. Now, no fluid, I'm still getting fluid off of my legs, but no fluid is coming onto my legs. So I
Yeah.
don't have any more of that problem. And I can walk. I mean, I can drive again. I can fit in a car
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. 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 No, I listen. I totally understand. I just came back from a trip to Ohio. I'm going to Louisville here next week, and it's again just 40 pounds. It makes a tremendous difference in the comfort, riding in the car and that kind of stuff. I mean, just so many things. I know exactly what you mean. You got me, by about 30 pounds or so. But like I said, you're preaching to a saved man here. I've never been 700 pounds, but I've been 550 pounds, and I know the struggle, and I also know the the thrill of victory, or at least the initial victories. And
Totally.
when you see out to the future, your future's so bright, brother. We got to wear shades,
Exactly.
because
That's that's
because
the
better
truth.
days are coming. Better days are coming.
And
Because yeah,
I understand the, you know, look, if I was talking to me out there in the audience and I saw that this guy's, 470 pounds, I wouldn't listen to me either because it's like, what do you know? You're
if
overweight.
they saw your before picture at 700, they would. You know,
Yeah, and I've got a few of those. That's my biggest regret was that I didn't take more of those pictures. But I mean,
well, you didn't plan on having a channel. Me too. I didn't. I didn't document much at all either. I didn't plan on. If I'd have known I was going to have this channel, yeah, I would have documented a lot more. I
absolutely,
didn't
and for me too, I feel the same way. I just thought in my head when I was trying to figure out if I was going to do a channel, are these people going to listen to me? But finally, what I figured out was, and it sounds so silly, right? Because is there a really big difference between somebody that's fighting the same struggle at 500 pounds and 700 pounds, or 600 pounds and 700 pounds? Probably not that huge, but when you're in that old mindset, it's enough of an excuse for you to say, "Well, see, I'm different. I'm worse
Yeah.
off."
Listen, man. I mean, you guys. I feel like a light. I feel like a flyweight, man. When you start talking about the seven handles, I'm like, man, that's super heavyweight, brother. I'm a middleweight down here at 550. So yeah, I know. I know what you mean, but I have learned through this process that, brother, you got to sing your song. You got to sing your song your way, your style, your voice. Tell your story. I say it all the time. If God wanted us all to sound like Dr. Barry, we'd all be wearing overalls, falling out the back of tractors. You know, that's not what it's about. It's about what you can do to connect with somebody somewhere and change their life, and in the process change yours as well. And I didn't exactly understand that before. And again, my channel, all I want to really do is make people laugh. That's
Right.
really all I want to do. I want to make people laugh and smile and give them enough information and show them enough of my life to where they can find a ketogenic doctor, whether it's online or in their local community, and get on that road. If you look at, when you go to my site, my videos are after the doctors,
Right.
the doctor's sites and that's on purpose because I really don't want the light on me so much. The message, I can't save anybody's life. I'm a dummy that just sings goofy songs and does silly characters on the internet. But this message can change your life. This message can save your life. And that's what I always want people to get is the message. Sure, I'll sing it. Maybe you come to my channel and laugh and smile or be entertained, but hopefully, man, you'll find one of those doctors or a doctor, a different one. I don't care where you get the message. I just care that you get the message because, like I said, it's a life changing message, a life saving message. So we'll wrap it up here. Listen, man, I just want to tell you, you are one of the most incredible, amazing people that I've ever met. You are strong, man. You are tough as nails. The stuff you've been through, man, in your life would have just smashed a mere mortal, man. You are a superhero from the planet Carnivore,
Appreciate it.
and it's a pleasure to know you. It's just such an inspirational story, one of the greatest I've ever heard, and it's just an honor to sit here and just talk with you and get to know you a little better and to shine a light on you because the world needs to know you. That's a
Well, I
simple.
sure appreciate it, man. And I've
And,
had to. I didn't know about your channel until I saw you on the keto cookout, and I knew we would get along. So,
oh man, listen, if I'd have known you back in the day, we'd have went coast to coast tearing Golden Corral up, brother. Me, you
sure.
and Bill, we could have wrecked shot. We could have killed him, man. We'd have tore him up.
Well, and I want to do kind of a funnier channel, spinoff or something someday because, like I said, you don't see it from me right now because I'm trying to get used to being on camera. But uh, I wanted to start a channel, something like the Chronicles of the Fat Guy or something, because I have some hilarious stories in my life of things that happen. I
Yeah.
got no joke. I got banned from all the Six Flags in the United States over a dispute over funnel cake, and I gotta my
Oh,
family laughs.
that's a great. That sounds like a great story, man. We'll have to say that maybe for chapter 2 of Keto Conversations now.
Yeah, I got
Say
to get
something
that out
very
there
good.
because my family rolls. Everybody, my family, my friends, my coworkers, they die on the ground laughing because it is one of the funniest things you've ever heard.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds right. Well, listen, man. Tell the folks where they can find you, your social media, and that, and what they can expect when they come to see the Carnivore Cure.
Yeah, absolutely. So on everything but Twitter, I am the Carnivore Cure at the Carnivore Cure. So that's for Instagram, YouTube, and Rumble. And then on Twitter or X now, I'm Carnivore Cure at Carnivore Cure.
I love it, man. You're out here doing the work, and that's what it's all about, man. We're trying to change lives, maybe save a few, and let the world know about this great message that we have in our way of life. Well, man, like I said, I want to thank you for being with me for this time. And I look forward to working with you in the future. You're one of the good guys. I'll do whatever I can to help support you and your message, and I wish you all the best.
I appreciate it, man. I love your channel, and I sure am honored that you invited me on. I appreciate it so much.
Hey, no problem. No problem at all. Happy to do it, folks. It doesn't get much better than this. It's Keto Conversations. We bring you people from all walks of life who've seen their life changed by ketogenic living. And if this story doesn't inspire you, you're not inspirable. So I want you to get on that keto road with us, or stay on that keto road with us if you're already on it. And we'll have more conversations like this in the future. As always, we wish you all the best, and I will see you on the next one.